So in preparing for the podcast, we thought about the best way to structure the conversation, really. And for Laura and Aisha, this was about going through the life course, the timeline of their lives. So we're going to start by just reflecting on some of the earliest memories of being in care or of having a social worker. So I wonder, Laura, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so the main memory that sticks out for me whenever I think back to that early time in care was actually day one, the day that I got taken into care. I replay over and over again, being sat in the office, being terrified. I mean, I knew I was leaving a bad home and a bad, abuse and things like that. But the not knowing what was going to come after that was just as frightening as. And I remember I was sat in the office for 6 hours till gone 7 o'clock at night in a social worker office until they found a placement. And the placement I was going to foster carers that hadn't had a child before either. So they told me that this would be a good thing. Everybody would be as nervous as each other.
How old were you, Laura?
I was 13 at this time, and it was terrifying. But I just remember when I actually did get there, this lovely couple showed me this beautiful bedroom. It was lovely decorated. There was clean sheets on the bed. There was brand new clean clothes for me. I was allowed to get in the bath and didn't have to share that bath with anyone. And just by the end of the first day, I remember it being so scary and so terrifying. But I remember by the time that I fell asleep on that night, I just remember feeling so relieved. I was thinking, well, this actually isn't worse than what I've come from, it was going to get much worse than that, this first placement. I very naively thought that every placement would be as good. Unfortunately, it was only an emergency. There were only emergency foster carers, so the maximum I could stay with them was 28 days before I'd have to be moved on to somewhere long term. So that was the second thing I remember about it, was thinking, well, why, when you've got a place that's already working, are you looking for carers elsewhere? But yeah, I just remember thinking, fear, then relief. Which again, as my time went in care, the fear came back, unfortunately. That placement was great until the foster carer slapped me for smoking I was wearing her Newcastle Falcons rugby shirt, and I'd had a cigarette in it, and I'd come to her and I was stinking of smoke. And looking back, you think, I was their first foster child. She slapped me. That was reported, and she's still fostering to this day. So I just remember the earliest memories of care being such overwhelming feelings of fear, then relief, then fear, then relief. Fear, of the unknown. Relief when it's not as scary as what your mind had. And the social worker, I will say about the social worker, she was brilliant. She was the only thing that she was the only way I got through that whole day, because I was just crying the whole day, especially sat in this office and people were just coming over to bring me snacks and everything like this. But you just sort of plonked in the corner or somewhere. You don't know what's going on with your life. You don't know what's happening with your parents. Are they about to get arrested because they've just threatened you? You've got all these things. And then you're like, where am I going to go? And they can't even tell you. They don't know themselves. So apart from saying to you, we had to get you away to make you safe, it doesn't feel safe at first. It feels so much more. And obviously you've had your parents as well. I had my parents telling me what it would be like if I ever told and went into care, But I'll never forget that day. And even sat talking about it now, I feel the emotion inside of me that I had when I was sat in that office. And then actually my foster placement ended up being 2 hours away from my school. I had to get a taxi. It was just... But yeah, that was a pretty overwhelming day for a teenage girl, yeah.
Yeah. Aisha?
So like Laura just said, I grew up with the threats of care all the time. It was, oh, well, one day you're going to go into, my mum grew up in care, so she was like, oh, well, one day you're going to go into care and you'll regret it and you'll be grateful for what you've got here. And one day I went to school and I came home, my bags were packed, the social worker was there, who I'd never met. She was a nice woman. She just said, right, you're going to go now and you're going to go live with your nan, who I'd never met. I'd never met my nan. She said, you're going to go live with your nan in Blackpool. I went there, I had to change schools, everything, and got bullied. And after a year, I was sexually assaulted. So I absconded from my nan's. I ended up self-harming, and I came home and the police were there. And like I said, I'd self-harmed. The police arrested me for breach of the peace. The next day, I was put into this random care home in the countryside. It was a lovely, lovely, lovely couple, but like you said, it was an emergency placement, so I couldn't stay there. Yeah. Even it made no sense. They were perfect for me. They wanted me to stay, but because they only took emergency kids, I couldn't stay there. And then from there, I went.
Were you similar age to Laura?
I was 13. Yeah, wow. Exactly the same. Yeah, 13. From there, I went to another children's home, and within a week of me being there, the foster carer slapped me, just like you said, which is mad. Yeah. He slapped me in the face because I'd run off, because I got a letter for saying I was going to go to court for the sexual assault, because obviously I got scared. Yeah. And at that point, I'm sitting there now, I look back and I think, why did no one support me? Why did no one sit with me and open that letter to say, right, I know you're going to struggle with this letter, but let's work through it and let's talk about it. Instead of, I went to the train station and I jumped on the tracks to kill myself. I was literally 13 years old. My foster carer jumped on, I swore at him and he slapped me in the face. Next thing I know, I got arrested again for breach of the peace. And then I was taken in to the police station. Next day I'm in another placement. This happened for years and years and years. In that time I had 7 different social workers. To this day I've had over 18 different social workers, leaving care workers, and half of them have just left and I've not even known. Yeah. So even the ones like with the placements and with the social workers, the ones that I wanted to keep always left, and the ones that I didn't want to keep always stayed. And we had a really bad relationship a lot of the time, but it was almost like, oh, well, she's a difficult child, so we'll just put them with her because she's got enough of a caseload, so we'll see her once a month and whatever. So that was my experience. That was my first, that was a lot, but yeah, that was like my first experience in care from what I remember. It wasn't good because it's supposed to be like a family environment, and they've got locks on the fridge and locks on the cupboards, and they don't treat you like their own kids. At Christmases, they buy their kids more presents than you, and it might not seem like an issue, but if they're supposed to treat you like their own, they don't. You can tell that you're not part of that family because they don't treat you the same.